Okay, well 3 weeks ago we got a very interesting email saying would we be involved in the build of an interesting car. We examined it a bit further. We realised that they were actually asking us to build some race cars for the new Forza Horizon 3 game to celebrate the release of it in Australia. Then when we sort of looked into that, we're like, holy crap, this is something we want to be involved in. So we got back to them straight away. This is only, mind you, 3 or 4 weeks ago this happened. They sort of asked us what sort of cars, you know, they think that Australians would love to see. Originally we were going to do a Ford versus Holden sort of stuff. And then I ended up giving Andrew from Motive DVD a buzz and sort of hit him up and asked him what his take on the project would be. He said he was definitely keen on doing it, so then he said, well, he came up with an interesting proposal. Rather than a Aussie versus Aussie car, how about we just choose another Australian icon, that being the 32 GTR. As you guys know, the 32 GTR annihilated all from the Group A racing. So that has a huge pedigree in Australia. So we chose that, and then what better to sort of pair that up with other than the pinnacle of Australian kind of cars that come out nowadays. It's the HSV GTS, the most powerful Australian car ever built. One of the great things about the build that we actually chose to do, the 2 different cars that we chose to do, is the diversity of the audience we're going to hit. We've got JDM versus Aussie, we've got old versus new, we've got turbo versus big V8, pushrod versus double overhead cam. The number of people that we hit, we just wanted to sort of stir up a little bit of rivalry. I think it actually has worked out really well. Like the number of people that are already arguing over what's going to be the winner. You know, we've got all-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive. It's quite an interesting concept to pit these 2 cars together. They're very different cars, but both in their own right, exceptionally good vehicles. That was only 2 weeks ago we picked up the GTR. Then we picked up the HSV GTS. My mate Brad drove it up from Melbourne. The cars only got here. Really, we've been working on them for 1 week so far. As you could probably tell, I haven't slept a lot. And it's been hectic, but probably not making a lot of sense. But this build has been a huge task for us. But we've dropped everything to try and make sure it happens, because I'm really excited to see what the audience thinks about these 2 cars.
This build for the 32 was meant to be quite a simple, quick refresh. We'll get it going really quickly. We had a very short time frame. The car turned up, and it's turned into a larger build than was anticipated. So the 32, when we pulled the motor, went to JHH. We pulled it down. We decided to do a 2.8 on Mark's request. It's nothing too crazy, kind of aiming around that 500 horsepower kind of mark, kind of streetable, nice kind of build. JHH received the motor just on a week ago, stripped, repaired, rebuilt, and then back to us within 5 days. We received the 32 last night, late, and motor's already in and running by Sunday at the latest. All these, cars that are raced on that game for so many years, and it's really exciting. And of course the 32 is going to win. There's no if, buts or maybes about that.
The R32 GTR was already a solid car to begin with and made for a good base. It arrived with Volk TE37 SL wheels, which are now wrapped in Hankook Z221R comps. Inside them, Ferrari F40 Brembo brakes. We upgraded the suspension with MCA red coilovers. The interior already had a cage and bucket seats, and the car came equipped with a carbon clutch inside the standard 5-speed. The engine already had some goodies such as a 100mm thick intercooler, fuel rail and PWR radiator and oil cooler, and an aftermarket ECU. The new engine is a Nitto 2.8-litre stroker with Nitto oil pump, and the head receives some mild tidying up, a set of enlarged exhaust valves, some drop-in cams and some aftermarket valve springs. We decided to install the turbo kit from our R32 GTR project budget supercar, as we knew it was responsive and able to make the required power while remaining streetable and great for circuit work, which is really what this car is designed for. It's a Garrett GTX 3582R from GCG turbochargers with a twin-scroll 101 rear housing, and it sits on a 6-boost twin-scroll exhaust manifold with a TurboSmart 50mm external wastegate. There is a custom 3-inch dump pipe with X-Force 3.5-inch catback exhaust. We also added TurboSmart fuel pressure regulator and blow-off valve, as well as 1650cc Bosch stainless injectors suitable for E85. The fuel system was upgraded further with the fitment of an aftermarket Industries surge tank with inbuilt Walbro pumps. we were excited to see how it would perform on a built 2.8 litre engine. The guys at GT Auto Garage made the deadline and the car was ready for the Dream Machines dyno night. With the extra capacity, the GTR pumped out over 600 horsepower at the hubs on only 18 psi, and 27 psi saw a massive 720 horsepower at the hubs. Although the ignition system was at its limits, so we decided to keep boost to 20 psi for the short term and to make it a little fairer on the GTS at the Forza Horizon 3 launch at Sydney Dragway. With the car sent down to Sydney, we hit the road to prove it's a street car. Sydney Dragway was the stage for the showdown between the Forza Horizon 3 Dream Machines. We got in a couple of lazy test hits to make sure the car was running well. The mile per hour showed that the car had the capability to run some decent times. V8 supercar driver Jonathan Webb was at the wheel of the GTS, sporting over 650 wheel horsepower, and I was asked to drive the GTR. On cold R-comps and a carbon clutch that hadn't been warmed up, the first run was a little messy.
Oh, it's very, very close off the start line. It looks to me. GTS is in front. He's stretching the way to the top end. And he gets there. A very nice run, and 11.7.
With the score tied 1-1 after the first two runs, the final run would be my chance to show what GTR power is all about.
Yeah, one more. You want to swap lanes? Yeah.
Now you have to guess the first two codes. You have to guess the first codes of the game and you go on.
10.9 at 137 miles per hour, and a win over the GTS was the result, proving the car was easily a 10-second street car in circuit trim with plenty of potential left in the combination. So, we've decided to develop the car even further and see if we can get it into the 9s. Stay tuned for part 2.